Welcome into the Financial Freedom Roundtable, where each week we break down complex financial topics so you can more easily understand them and, more importantly, take action on your path to becoming financially free. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Grateful to have you in the room. I'm Russ Morgan. They call me the idea guy, mostly because, like a father guy, just didn't sound so cool to me. But enough about me for a moment. Let me introduce you to my co-host, my partner. He's an Italian stallion. He's got the license plate covered to prove it. Mr. Joe Murray. Stallion, good afternoon.
My brother, good to be with you, man.
Well, we've been together for 2.5 days, and inspiring minds are wanting to know what happened during the Inner Circle Live, because they weren't able to travel across the country. They weren't able to come spend time with you, me, and all these dream team of coaches. And what did happen? What was the big so what to this event?
Oh, man, we've always said it, but man, live events change lives. And it was no different this week than it was in our previous events. If you haven't been to one of these, you have an opportunity. And I think the thing we can look forward to in this podcast is that the accelerators that come from an event like this are widespread, but man, they hit people at different points. And so I'm excited to hear everybody's perspective, all the accelerators that each of you guys picked up along the way.
Well, let's bring in the dream team of financial coaches. To my left, I got a true financial Sherlock Holmes of our day. No problem too difficult to solve, but only known him earlier. I'd be so much richer, said everybody. Mr. Downtown Ernie Brown. Let's see,
Man, it is good to be seen. You know, the second most thing I'm looking forward to past this weekend, it was amazing. The next thing I'm most excited about is a good nap. My goodness, I felt like we did about 72 hours living in about 48 hours. That was intense.
True. Man, it's a lot. You know, when you're pouring into people, you're having conversations, we're mouth breathing the whole time. My health coach tells me I'm not doing a good job getting oxygen in my airstream here.
Man, mouth breather.
You are a mouth breather, Russ. You are that.
Yeah. I mean, or beyond that, moving on to somebody really wants to hear about. Talk a little bit about the impact, some of the whys behind what you saw this event doing in people's lives from there.
And I think, I led the passport challenge with Jamie. And the past several times we've done that, we've shared a quote from the Becoming Your Own Banker book from Nelson Nash. And he talks in the end of that book, if you're assuming you're sufficiently motivated or certain that this is the course of action that you want to take, the thing that comes to mind is you have to have the desire to make it happen. And I think what I saw this weekend, the conversations that I had, for the most part, people who want this, right, is probably not going to take a plane ride to come be a part of something you don't want. But I think when people got here, when they saw the full room, when they saw the conversations and networking that was happening, the willingness to share, I think desire just shot up for people across the room. And that was exciting to see the conversations, the goodbyes, potential partnerships coming from this weekend. That was a huge highlight.
Yeah, so good. And conversations and relationships happening across all ages, right? So look, we get to your left. I got a true doctor's in the house, right? He is a DFM. That's a doctor of financial medicine, and he can resuscitate your financial situation just by looking through your budget. Mr. Automated Budget himself, Mr. Eric Hudson. Good to have you on.
Russ, so good to be here. Man, what an amazing weekend. Do you ever just push pause and give yourself a moment to go, I can't believe I'm actually getting to experience something, whether it be a time with your family or whatever it may be, just to actually breathe that in and know that you've just truly been blessed by a moment. And I got a lot of that this weekend. So fortunate to have been here.
So good. To your left, last but not least, the retiree of the group, Mr. Catch Me If You Can, when he's not killing bears with his bare hands, his spirit item for tuna. He's right here dropping gold nuggets, the one and only Mark Paragucci. Welcome, Mark.
It is great to be here. And the only downside to this is, with my previous life in aviation, it's been said that for every day that you spend in a new time zone, you are catching up an hour that you are off. So I've been flown in from the West Coast. I'm 2 hours off of the time zone. And now that we've been here, I'm just about caught up, which means it's now time to go home and try to relearn a new time zone. So that part's kind of disappointment. But this was amazing. And I'm truly grateful that I was able to have the time and the freedom to come here and be a part of it with everybody.
Well, this calendar-focused event, and I say calendar-focused for multiple reasons. One, it's calendar-focused that we started in January of every year to give a jump start, right? Sometimes we need a goal and we need that momentum kind of to be pushed a little bit, and starting off with the year helps us do that. The second way, the reason why I say this event is calendar-focused is because we really don't have control of our calendars to the level that we want to. Some more than others, but there's still items that have been written in for us, meaning that there's appointments, there's activities, there's things that we have to do that we're not in charge of writing them in. And our goal beyond this event, Joey, as you know, was to really help people envision what it would look like if you got to be the one every single month writing in to your calendar what would be on it. And that could be things like, oh, this year I'm going to invest in myself. This year I'm going to take more time on the trip that I usually go on to that I only have a week. I'm going to expand it to 2 weeks. When you have control of your time, when you have financial freedom, you get to control all of those items, and starting with probably the most important one, which is time. We're going to break down this event. We're going to talk about the accelerators that you can glean from us as we sat here with 150 plus people talking about how we can have more control over our calendar. We're going to do that right now.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
All right, Stallion. Everyone is wanting to know, what is an opportunity that I miss? What is one of those accelerators that would have put me on the path to financial freedom had I been there? What is the one that you took away from this event that you can share?
Well, I'll use an example that you used to share with me years ago. He was like, I don't know if you guys have heard him say this before, but hey, have you ever been to a concert that you just loved? And then you go to your best friend and you say, man, you should have been at that concert. And you just start singing the songs. What are the chances that that is going to have the same impact as you actually going to the concert with that person? Never, right? You cannot do it justice.
It would be the same impact, just completely opposite. high impact to good, but for me, high impact to
Exactly. Well, I think that one of the accelerators that you get at this event is when you choose to bring your spouse. Because a lot of times when people are engaging within the mastermind or within their coaching, a lot of times it's just one of the spouses, and they are the one that's kind of taking the lead in terms of their family's finances or what have you. They're doing a lot of education. They're taking in, really like a fire hydrant's worth of information.
I think taking on a lot of pressure too in that environment, that they're now responsible. I feel that pressure when my wife sends me to the doctor with the kids. Like, oh man, I'm responsible for all the questions, all the information that was, transferred to me. And I feel like when we come to events like this without our spouses and they're like, okay, what'd you learn? You're like, oh, okay, now I better share it. And then I better share it the correct way.
Exactly. And I had multiple conversations with the spouse that I didn't know. I'll just put it that way. We've had one person in the Inner Circle Plus Mastermind, one person was in coaching, came to the last event, one person was involved in the Land Geek community that we knew that now came as a part of Wealth Without Wall Street. And the theme is just more of what you would think. Well, he's been really excited about this, or she's really gotten a vision for this, but I didn't really know what it was. I thought it was a cult. I didn't know what they were talking about. Is this a pyramid scheme? Whatever. The truth of the matter is when you and your spouse are on the exact same wavelength, the exact same education, the exact same vision of what financial freedom is, sitting through the passport challenge, man, can you imagine more of an accelerator to your family's future? Like it's incomprehensible for you to have better results than that. So I took that away as like, man, this is your opportunity to bring your spouse and get on the same page.
Well, recently in one of our masterminds, we actually went through an exercise where we talked about what we wanted, and then we said, let's do the inverse of that. Let's write down. So
opposite, yeah.
What would be the things if I wanted to become financially free? I wanted to build, passive income, or I wanted to stop trading time for money, whatever the thing is that I wanted. Instead of going at all the things you have to do in order to make that happen, you would write down all the things that you would have to do to make sure that didn't happen. Well, I would think one of those on the list would be being complete opposite minded financially with my wife, right? That would be the things like if she and I were completely anti each other's strategy, I can't imagine that we would actually successfully get there, and it definitely wouldn't happen in an efficient, effective way. I see that as a huge accelerator, is that we miss that too often, right? Like I would put on my wife the responsibility of you handling medical stuff. Okay, I'll handle the financial stuff. But then whenever I have a question about why we're doing the, medical stuff one way, she's like, now you want to get a part of this? You want to, see how that goes? And I'm like, well, tell me more. And if I don't have pure information, then I may disagree, but I'm not able to really be a help to the matter. I'm only being a kink in the wheel. And I think whenever we can be together on anything, that's super solid. Well, speaking of the family, I want to come to you, Eric, because we also saw a younger generation at this event. How would you say seeing that is accelerating people?
It's almost hard for me to talk about this without getting emotional. Family has always been important to me. When I was young, and I'm in my 50s, so I'm older than some of you guys sitting around this table, or everyone sitting around this table. But on our local Christian radio station, Dr. James Dobson used to do a 30-minute show about the family. And family was so important to me that I'd go to the Wayback Machine here. I used to record those sessions on a cassette tape so that when I went to bed at night, I could listen to that. Because having a family that was strong and caring and loving was important to me. And when I see these dads and moms bring their sons and daughters to an event like this, because they're wanting a better life for them, they're wanting to share experience with them, it's one of the most incredible things to watch. And I'm so grateful to this community and all of the members that come to this. They don't shun those kids. You don't see them, pat them on the head and say, oh, it's cute that you're here. The people that are here with us are continually pouring into those kids. You can do this. You can learn this. You're fortunate to be here. They're reinforcing their dad and their mom's presence in their life. It's amazing that your dad or your mom brought you here. All of these positive interactions. And if you've never seen that happen, if you've not seen that, had an opportunity to see that generational bridge occur right in front of you, it's a pretty powerful thing. I love it.
Well, you even got to bring your daughter.
I got to bring my daughter for the first time.
Super powerful.
And that's why I can't stop grinning, Joe.
Well, here's the part about that too, is that doesn't that accelerate our own financial freedom? Because is that not a potential obstacle for us as parents to not be able to come to an event like this because of having a child at home or multiple children at home, and what would I do with them, right? And now it's like you would bring them here and they would participate in the conversations. They would be able to learn. They would be able to see others. And what I loved is that there was an opportunity for them all to get engaged early on. And during that process, they bonded, right? And now they have a friend group that is in line with this concept. So there'll be more conversations because they're from all over the place, right? And I was sitting there talking to to two of the teenage boys. And I said, here's the key is that you guys invested in yourself, but you're going to have to keep investing in yourself, because when you go back home, you think that there's anybody else in your school, in your age group that is doing this weekend in their life. Well, no. I was like, all right. So the relationships, the conversations you have with some of these others, you're going to have to lean onto those. You're going to pour into those a little bit more, because that's the only way. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if we're spending time with people who are not having these conversations, so that applies both at the kid level, but applies to ours.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we are able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before, go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/PIOS. There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, Pop Quiz Day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared though for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
Now, Ernie, you got to see a lot of different opportunities happen while you were here. Share one of the kind of the motivational things that inspired you. One of the things you think is an accelerator.
Yeah, I've got to sit in a lot of small groups and have those conversations alongside of people. It was amazing, super rewarding. I've learned a lot as well. But I want to think about something pretty practical. We tell people, hey, if you come here, we're going to bring in the same room as you multiple passive income ideas. And before you leave, you ought to have a lot more clarity and confidence around what is the thing for you. So people come looking to answer the question, what am I going to do? And I think I saw from this event, just from sitting in those conversations, people answering the question, more of the question of how am I going to do it? Right? If they got to that first benchmark, which is knowing what they're going to do, and I saw a lot of people do that, the conversations I was having were people talking about their different experiences in those things. So 2 examples. I help facilitate the breakout room with short-term rentals. So people coming there and saying, this seems to be for me. And we would mastermind at the end of those couple breakout sessions. And the conversation went a little bit like this. Yeah, this is for me, but in my city, I know this isn't allowed. So I realize I'm going to have to do this in a different market. I want to do short-term rentals, but I need to do it in a different market. I thought I wanted to do short-term rentals, but I just didn't want the aspect of owning the property. It's a lot of money to put into the property to purchase it and close on that property, and then I have to furnish it. That's just a lot of capital. But I learned that I can arbitrage. I don't have to own the property to do it. So I think I want to do it that way. Well, another person said, well, I see the benefit of short-term rentals, but I'm just not so sure that that's the thing that I want to scale. But I heard in the presentation the idea of owning beautiful, attractive properties. And I love this experience that we had when we went on vacation. And I love sitting on this particular porch and looking out. It was just so awesome. I want to spend a whole day there. I think I would like to own a property like that and do short-term rentals from it and be able to use it. So remember, this is for me, and multiple different ways about how they're going to do it. Second example, just in land investing, was standing not in one of those breakout sessions, but this after the fact, and just happened to be in a circle, 5, 6 people who were doing land investing already. And there's a couple people in there saying, look, tell me about how you got this done. And one person said, well, I'm building the land business myself. I'm working right now on increasing my marketing efforts and finding people to do that for me. So building business themselves. Other person said, oh, that's cool, but I actually have a partner in the business who's focused on that aspect. Okay, cool. So you have multiple people's attention, you're building that with a partner. Cool. Another person in the same group said, oh, I found a done for you opportunity. I'm completely passive. I just put in the money and pay the operator to take care of it. And so I can imagine, right? I have a land investing business myself, but I can imagine the couple people in that group who know land flipping is the thing that they want to do, hearing from multiple people, first of all, who are doing it, right? This isn't just skepticism over the internet anymore. Here's somebody in person who's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, multiple ways to solve that problem. I imagine that accelerates people's start time, right? From idea to implementation, speeds that up, but certainly doing it the right way for them speeds up their progress to financial freedom.
100%. So this weekend, we had 6 different passive income strategies that were here. Ernie, you were talking about the land investing, or Joey and I like to call it the land flipping model, and the short-term rental space, but we also had the car rental space where you could rent your car out on platforms like Turo. We talked about how to build an e-commerce business and create brands by utilizing Amazon. We had 2 different syndications, really passive strategies where you could invest in some of the best operators, both in the multifamily space as well as in the self-storage space. It's really cool, though, that there are people actually doing it. When you're in this environment, it's not like there was a lot of beginners here. There were some people that was just in the beginning of their journey, but had done a lot of other things in life. But there was a lot of experts in the room. There's a lot of people that now this is their 3rd or 4th event they've attended. And one of the conversations I got to have, which I thought was an amazing accelerator, there was a guy that he had come to the last 2 live events we had put on. I was just curious, for somebody who's attended it for the 3rd time, we make a little bit of wrinkles. We add a couple little upgrades from here to there. But I mean, our process, our framework hasn't changed that much. And so I was like, hey, would you mind, just share with me, Josh, one of the big takeaways for you, an insight, maybe something that you gained from this. And I was kind of, hold my breath. He wasn't going to be like, it's kind of a big waste of my time. I came all the way in from Virginia, and this was really, I was hoping that I was going to get something and didn't get it. And he said, being in the Inner Circle Plus Mastermind is always cool, right? I get to interact with these people on these Zoom calls multiple times a week. I kind of get feedback. I get to visit with the coach. So being face-to-face with them definitely accelerates the relationship. He said, but that next level room that you have, which if you haven't been to our live events, all of our mastermind members have a special room that we call the next level room that they go in and they can just sit in there as a smaller group and really interact in deeper conversations, whether they're, breaking down deals with one another, sharing deals with one another, finding ways to fund deals with one another, or whatever it may be. And he said, that was the game changer for me. He said, I've been in that. He said, I didn't even sit in one of the main events this time, one of the sessions, because I've heard those, but I just was fascinated by every conversation, every interaction I had in that next level room. And he started just sharing these conversations of income opportunities, different ways to do the deal opportunities, tax strategy ideas. He even mentioned the concept of ways that one person was doing parenting, because he had brought his son too. And it was just like, it was just not just one small area. He kept breaking it down from business to personal, financial. I love that. I think whenever we can get insight from people at a point, maybe a little bit further along than we are, that is such a huge accelerator. How about for you, Mark?
Speaking of people that are looking down the road, it didn't even take 30 to 45 minutes of registration. So we haven't even started the formal event. People are showing up, checking them in, saying hi. And one of my clients was able to luckily find her and find out, hey, this is great that you're here. What do you want to take away? Well, I really want to talk to some people that are in this specific space, because she had narrowed down her search for passive income. And I said, fantastic. Now that I know that, here's one person, here's 2 people, here's 3 people. Let's go say hi. Take her over there, introduce her to those people. Before the registration is done, get to connect back with her. So what do you think? I think I'm ready to switch my strategy. Because in those conversations, I was able to uncover, this is a really cool idea, but it's just not for me right now. So I'm going to switch to my number 2 idea. And I'm going to spend the rest of the time digging into that. And she did. And as a follow-up, at the conclusion, I said, all right, so now that the event's over, right? Everyone's getting ready to head on out. What do you think? This is so cool. I was really worried because I didn't think I had enough time to put into this idea. But I realized my business where I work has a seasonality to it. And in the summertime, we have a drop off. And she said, that's when I'm going to really have the time and energy to build this thing out. So between now and then, we can continue doing the due diligence, getting the coaching, getting the training. Summertime, she's already allocated. She knows she's got some spare time to really put in to get this thing moving. And I'm just sitting there, inside smiling, right? Proud parent moment, super stoked. And I'm like, that's so cool because in such a short period of time, literally, what was that, 2 days, a day and a half or so, she is, like to Eric's point, leapfrogged so much more than where we've come so far over the past couple months. And it's just accelerating. And that was really cool to see.
Well, I mean, just being able to take that option off of the table that fast. Like we think, oh, I got to pick this one and I learned about it and I get to move forward on that one. But turning off the idea that e-commerce, in her case, was going to be a good fit, like that saved her months in literally a few minutes. That's amazing.
Well, here's one of the things I want to ask you guys. I'll kind of leave it up to whichever one you that participate in those conversations. But as a service provider, if you're someone in the service field where you're accountant, attorney, you provide a service to people who are looking to become financially free, and you're not at these events, you're missing out on opportunities of great discussions. Because I know we had both in the room at different times, and I got to see some of those conversations happening where someone was saying, hey, I was thinking about this from a tax perspective. And somebody said, oh, hey, well, just let me bring Lloyd over here. He's a CPA. He does a lot of this stuff. Let's ask his opinion. And they're like, oh, well, cool. Well, yeah. And they started breaking down their business and investment opportunity they were looking at, and were really wondering about some of the tax implications of it. And right there, because they're at the same event, hey, I can share this information with you here. What would it cost you to have to one, find a person who knows that information? Like, how do you know that they're the right person for you? And then what is that? $500, $1,000, $2,000 bill just by being at the event, talking about acceleration, one, to be able to get the answer that they needed, but then also to be able to get it because that person was just willing to give. Did you guys get to hear any of the conversations around either the tax stuff, the estate planning, or asset protection stuff?
Yeah, this morning or last morning, we have a room specifically set up for our mastermind members to carve off and spend some time together, and we lead people through that. So this morning I led a conversation through infinite banking, and somebody asked in that room about beneficiaries of insurance policies, and that dovetailed into a conversation about who owns insurance policies and contingent owners, things like this, and what happens if I die, and just that type of thing. And we happen to have Clint, an estate planning attorney, sitting in the room, who is an expert, absolute expert in that space. And we were just able to say, that's a great question. Clint, what do you think about that? And for the whole room, if there's 30, 40 people in that session, got just tremendous help, because that's not something that we normally want to think about. That if we don't think about and the worst happens, there's potential just massive derailment of the family's financial situation, right? So that disaster avoided. But then also just avoiding bad advice, right? Because we did have him in the room. That's an example.
I believe what you're trying to articulate, Russ, it's called masterminding. And I think a lot of people really got to get a taste of what that is. What actually is mastermind? And I think this event, it was really cool because we had built in the opportunity throughout some of the sessions, just have some time set aside. Say, all right, now here's a question. turn around, there's a couple of people around you, and let's have you mastermind around it. Why don't you brainstorm, work through this together? And I think number one, it gives people a taste of what masterminding actually is, because maybe not everyone is in a mastermind or is familiar with what it could be or the potential for it. But number two, it's creating an organic opportunity, well, inorganic because we're kind of pushing the moment, but it's an opportunity for them to start communicating with each other. And so now we're breaking down barriers amongst the members. So maybe you haven't met the 2 or 3 people that are sitting next to you. And how many times have you gone to an event where you're the only person you know? And wow, isn't it cool that now the event gave you a specific moment to be able to turn your chair and be vulnerable with the people next to you. And now all of a sudden you are starting to build rapport that you can then go deeper. I had 2 gentlemen. This was an interesting one. One gentleman I'd spoken to, he was from a smaller town in Mississippi. And I'm going to butcher it, so I won't even bother trying to say it.
Hattiesburg?
Yes, that one. And so I had connected with him earlier. And as I'm walking through the gallery on a little bit of a different session, there's another gentleman. I haven't had a chance to meet him yet. So I introduced myself, start chit-chatting. Well, where are you from? Hattiesburg. Wait, what? Hey, hold on a second. Hey, there's another guy right over here. He's from the same spot. And so they start connecting, not only from the same, live in the same place, they actually grew up near the same spot. And one of the gentlemen had actually bought a piece of real estate that the other gentleman had managed early. You can't buy that moment. That was so cool. And that's just from being open and connecting and being in a room with other people and wanting to figure out, hey, why are you here? What's going on? What are you trying to improve upon? And let's all figure it out together.
Well, that's what these events are about, is connections. Connection is accelerating, right? When we find people that are interested in the things that we're interested in, we can have those conversations. We go to events and we want to talk about building passive income or reducing our tax burden or finding ways to cut off time to our how long it is before we can leave our jobs. And when we're in conversations with people who have no interest in that or no ability to add to the conversation, we're kind of left like, okay, I guess we'll talk about football now. And for an Auburn fan, that really stinks, man. I want to talk about some passive income. I want to talk about buying a business, something. Even if it's unicorns, I'd talk about it. Well, this is one of those things that we're remiss that you were not here to hear it. But we absolutely want to give you an opportunity to either attend a virtual event that we'll be having coming up in the spring or a live event that we'll be having both over in the spring and the fall. If you want to go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/live, you can find out the details of the next one we're going to be doing and how you can get engaged in it. Gentlemen, coaches, I appreciate all that you do for our community. That is absolutely the accelerator in this room, is the community, and it starts with your leadership, your willingness to share your own personal story, being willing to give up your time. I mean, being here and having the chance to pick your brain on infinite banking, your brain on how you've invested in all these different ATM machines and all syndications. And Eric, you're just 25 years of looking at financial statements and just thinking through problem solving for people. It's invaluable. And you all give up your time so freely while you're here. And clearly, Joey, I beat up on you a lot, but I appreciate you always making up for all my mistakes and being the guy that everybody looks to and just roots for.
Same, Russ. You do a great job being the MC, because I couldn't do it. I don't have that. I don't have the Riz, is what the kids say.
But you're Rizless.
I'm grateful for your Riz.
Well, thank you. We are thankful for you listening to this, and we hope that you will join us on the next episode, as well as another potential live event. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.